Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I work, or used to work, depending on how you look at it, the closing shift at a Walmart. Not one of those modern Walmarts, packed with people, with a full parking lot and LED lights shining like it's broad daylight. No. This one is on State Route 41, between two towns that barely show up on the map. It's the kind of place you drive past and don't even notice. An old building, renovated on top, but with that smell of old concrete and cheap paint that never completely goes away. I started there 8 months ago. Shift from midnight to 6 in the morning. Stock, cleaning, organizing. The job nobody wants, but that pays the bills. And look, I didn't mind the loneliness. In fact, I preferred it. Fewer people, less conversation, fewer problems. It was me, 2 or 3 other employees, and the supervisor who stayed locked in the little camera room all night. The routine was always the same. At midnight sharp, the automatic doors locked. The system played that recorded message. The store is closed. Please proceed to the nearest exit. The last lights on the ceiling gradually went out, leaving only the emergency lights on, those dim, yellow ones that make everything seem older than it really is. And then, silence. Heavy silence. The kind of silence you feel in your chest. I started noticing the little things as early as the 2nd week. Nothing too obvious, like a shopping cart that I swore I'd left leaning against the wall in aisle 12, but that would appear in the middle of aisle 9. Or the strange feeling that someone had just left an aisle when I turned the corner. You know when you feel like you've just missed something by seconds? Something like that. I ignored it. Of course I ignored it. I was working alone most of the time. Tiredness, dim lights, echo. All of that messes with your head. Makes you see things that aren't there. But then that night came. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are always empty. Not even last-minute customers. Just me and Kevin, a skinny guy who never talked much. We had divided the departments. He got the electronics and beverage aisles. I got cleaning supplies, pets, and gardening. I was restocking the detergent shelves when I heard it. Steps. They weren't mine. They weren't Kevin's. He was on the other side of the store. They were slow, shuffling steps, like someone walking barefoot on the cold concrete floor. Right foot, left foot, pause, right foot, left foot. I stopped what I was doing. I stood completely still, holding a bottle of Tide in my hands. The footsteps continued. Closer. Corridor 7. Maybe corridor 8. Kevin? I called softly. Nothing. Kevin, is that you? Silence. The footsteps stopped. I dropped the bottle on the shelf and walked to the next aisle. Empty. Shelves full, lights flickering faintly, but empty. No sign of movement, no sound. I went back to my job. Tiredness, I thought. Just exhaustion. But then, 15 minutes later, I heard it again. This time closer, right behind me. And when I turn around, nothing. Just empty aisles stretching to the back of the store. And that silence. That damned silence. But something was wrong. Something in the air. A presence. Like when you know someone is looking at you, even though you can't see anyone. I finished my shift that night without speaking to anyone. I left quickly. In the car, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I tried to convince myself it was paranoia. But deep down, I already knew. The store is never truly empty. I should have resigned that week. But you know how it is. Bills to pay, rent overdue, empty fridge. And decent-paying night jobs don't just appear on every corner, especially not in an area like this. So I came back. Of course I came back. The following night, I arrived for my shift with that awful feeling in my stomach. You know when your body already knows something's wrong, but your head is still trying to convince you everything's okay? That was it. Kevin didn't show up. He texted saying he was sick. I was left alone with the supervisor, a guy named Dale in his 50s, with a beer belly, who spent all night watching videos on his phone in the security room. "Can you handle this on your own today?" he asked, without even looking up from the screen. "I can," I replied. That's a lie. I didn't want to be alone there. But what was I going to say? "Sorry, Dale, but yesterday I heard ghostly footsteps in the detergent aisle." He would laugh in my face. So I started my shift, alone. The first 2 hours were quiet. I organized the aisles, checked the inventory, stacked boxes in the warehouse. I kept my mind occupied. Headphones at maximum volume, loud music, anything to drown out the silence. But then, my cell phone battery died, and silence returned. I was in aisle 7, cleaning products, disinfectants, toilet paper. A long aisle, with tall shelves on both sides. The emergency lights created strange shadows, the kind that seem to move when you're not looking directly at them. That's when I heard it again. Steps. But this time, they were different. They weren't slow. They were fast, almost running, coming from the end of the hallway, straight towards me. My body froze. My heart raced. I turned my head, looking down the hallway. Nothing. But the footsteps continued, closer, louder, the sound echoing off the concrete floor. And then they stopped, right in front of me. I could feel. Something was there. Less than 2 meters from me. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. The air grew colder. My breath came out in clouds of vapor, even though the store wasn't usually that cold. "Who's there?" My voice came out weak and trembling. Nothing. Just that dense silence, heavy, as if something were studying me. I backed away slowly, my eyes fixed on the empty space ahead. My feet stumbled on a cardboard box. I fell backward, hitting my shoulder on the ground. The pain was immediate, but the fear was greater. And then I saw, at the edge of my vision, where the yellow light faded and the shadow began, something moved. It wasn't human, or maybe it was, I don't know. It was too tall, too thin. Its silhouette was all wrong, as if its limbs were too long, articulated in strange places. And he was just standing there, just observing. I jumped up and ran. I ran through the aisles, past shelves, displays, stacked boxes. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would explode. I only stopped when I reached the front of the security room, knock on the door. "Dale! Dale!" He opened it, annoyed. "What the hell is this, man?" There's someone in there," I gasped. "In corridor 7, I saw them. There's someone there." Dale frowned. He sighed. He went over to the monitors. "Let me see." He turned the cameras back on. Hallway 7, hallway 8, hallway 9, all empty. Shelves neatly arranged, lights flickering slightly. Nothing unusual. "There's nobody here," he said, bored. "I saw it. Dale, I swear. There was something there." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he gave that condescending smile. That smile of someone who thinks you're crazy. "Look, man, the night shift messes with everyone at first. Go ahead, finish your work. If you see anything new, give me a call." He closed the door. I was left alone in the hallway. And there, deep inside the store, I could have sworn I heard it again. Steps, slow, dragging, coming towards me. I didn't sleep that day. I arrived home as the sun was rising, locked the door, closed all the curtains, and sat on the sofa, trembling. I tried to convince myself it was tiredness, a hallucination, stress, anything but accepting what I had seen. But I had view, and worse, too had sense. I spent the whole day awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of that night in my head. Every detail, every sound. That impossible silhouette at the end of the hallway. When it was time to go back to my shift, I almost didn't go. Almost. But then I looked at the bills piled up on the kitchen table, the eviction notice stuck to the refrigerator, the message from the bank manager, and I went. This time, Kevin was there, and Dale too, of course. We all met in the security room before our shift started. "I need to show you something," I told Dale. He sighed. "Again with this. Please, just rewind the cameras from yesterday." Corridor 7, around 2:30 in the morning. He rolled his eyes, but did what I asked. He clicked on the system, resumed recording. Screen split across 12 monitors. Corridor 7 appeared in the upper right corner. In the beginning, it was just me, working, organizing shelves, everything normal. So I stopped. I turned my head. The camera captured the exact moment I heard the footsteps. And then, Kevin leaned forward. "Wait, what is that?" Dale paused the image. "There, in the corner of the screen, almost out of the camera's reach, a shadow. It wasn't mine. It didn't belong on any shelf. It was a shadow, standing tall, thin, deformed, as if someone were standing just outside the field of vision, but the shadow extended into the hallway." Dale zoomed in. The image became grainy, but it was still visible. The shadow had a human form, more or less, arms that were too long, head tilted at an odd angle, and it was stopped completely immobile. "Damn it," Kevin muttered. Dale played the video in slow motion. The shadow remained there for exactly 17 seconds, and then, suddenly, it disappeared. It didn't move. It didn't go away. It simply vanished, as if someone had erased it. 2 seconds later, I was running across the screen. Silence in the room. Dale cleared his throat. "It must be a system malfunction," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Or the cameras here are old. There's interference, light reflection." "A reflection of light?" I replied, incredulous. "That had form, Dale." "I'll report this to maintenance," he interrupted. "But for now, you two get back to work. And no drama, okay? We need to finish the inventory before 6. Kevin looked at me. I saw fear in his eyes, the same fear I was feeling. We left the room in silence. We started our shift. But this time, none of us wanted to be alone. We worked close to each other, always in the same aisle or the next one. Kevin didn't talk much, but I noticed him looking at the back of the store the whole time, checking the corners, listening. Around 3 in the morning, we were organizing the beverage section. I was crouched down, stacking soda bottles on the bottom shelf, when Kevin froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. I stopped. I listened. Steps. No, they weren't footsteps. It was something being dragged, like something heavy, metal scraping on the floor. It came from the next hallway. Kevin and I looked at each other. Neither of us moved. The sound continued. Slowly. Steady. Dragging. Stopping. Dragging again. "We should," Kevin began. "No," I interrupted. "We're not going there." But the sound was getting closer. And then, out of nowhere, it stopped. Absolute silence. I counted to 10 in my head. Nothing happened. "Let's finish this quickly and get out of here," I said. Kevin agreed. We worked in silence for the next 20 minutes. We didn't talk. We didn't look back. We just did the work and left. But as I was leaving, already in the empty parking lot, I looked back at the store. All the lights were off, except one, the light in corridor 7. And there, deep inside, near the shelves, a silhouette. Stop. Looking at me. If this made you uncomfortable, wait for the next chapter. Kevin didn't come back after that night. He sent a message to the group saying he'd gotten another job, day shift, closer to home. The message was short, terse, without apologies. But I knew the truth. He saw the same thing I did, and he left while he still could. I should have done the same, but I didn't. Because 2 weeks later, Dale called me into the office and offered me a raise. Nothing outrageous, but enough for me to pay the back rent and still have some money left over. And with Kevin gone, they needed someone to cover the shifts alone. "Can you handle it?" Dale asked, biting on a toothpick. I hesitated. I looked at him, at the cramped office, at the piles of paper, at my own reflection in the dirty window. "I can handle it," I lied. And that's how I started working alone, completely alone. 6 nights a week. Midnight to 6 in the morning, just me and that empty Walmart. The first few nights were bearable. I created a rigid routine. I always started in the same hallways. I always ended up in the same place. Headphones with loud music. Cell phone lights on all the time. I avoided hallway 7 as if it were a radioactive zone, but the store wouldn't let me forget. Small things. Objects out of place. Shelves I had organized in the morning would appear messy by nightfall. Boxes I had stacked in storage would be scattered on the floor by morning. And always, that feeling of being watched. And then, on my 5th night alone, I heard a knock. It wasn't just any noise. It was a loud, metallic, repetitive banging. It came from the back of the store, from the loading area, from the old warehouse. I was in the electronics aisle when I heard it. I stopped what I was doing. I turned off the music. I listened. Bam, bam, bam. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats again. It's as if someone were knocking on the other side of a door. I dropped the box I was holding and walked to the back. I passed the refrigerated aisle, the disused bakery area, until I reached the gray metal door that led to the storage room. The door was closed, locked from the outside, as always. Bam, bam, bam. The sound was coming from inside. I put my hand on the door. The metal was icy, too cold, as if it had been in a freezer for hours. "Is anyone there?" My voice came out louder than I intended. The banging stopped. Silence. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Nothing. I should have left. I should have gone back to work and forgotten about it. But something inside me, curiosity, stupidity, I don't know, made me take the bunch of keys out of my pocket. I unlocked the door. It opened with a long, metallic creak. On the other side, total darkness. The old warehouse never had enough light, but this time it was negro, as if the darkness was solid. A smell hit me. Mold, dust, and something else. Something chemical. Like ammonia mixed with rusty metal. I turned on my cell phone flashlight and pointed it inside. The warehouse was large, tall, empty shelves on both sides, boxes stacked at the back, a broken pallet on the floor. Everything covered in a thick layer of dust, and in the center of the space, markings on the floor. These weren't normal scratches. They were deep grooves, long ones, as if something heavy had been dragged, or as if something had scratched the concrete with fingernails, claws. I took a step inside. The door closed behind me. My heart raced. I turned quickly, tried to open it. Stuck. I pushed hard. Nothing. "No, no, no," I murmured, pulling at the doorknob desperately. And then I heard it. Breathing. It wasn't mine. It came from the bottom of the tank, slow, heavy, as if something large were breathing through its nose, each breath long, hoarse, moist. I pointed the flashlight toward the back. In the shadows, between the shelves, 2 eyes, shining, reflecting the light of the flashlight, yellow, fixed on me. And then the thing moved. It wasn't human, or it had been once. It was too tall, too thin. Its skin was pale, almost gray, stretched over bones that looked ready to pierce the surface. Its arms were long, disproportionate, ending in thin, curved fingers, and it was coming towards me. I threw myself against the door, punching and screaming. "Hey! Someone! Get me out of here!" The thing drew closer, shuffled steps, breathing getting heavier and heavier. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, and then the door opened. I fell backward onto the store floor. The warehouse door slammed shut and locked itself. Dale was standing there, looking at me with a confused expression. What the hell were you doing in there? I couldn't answer. I just stared at the door, at the dark storage room on the other side, and inside, I could still hear it, breathing, waiting. I didn't tell Dale what I had seen. How was I going to tell them? Hey Dale, there's a pale, deformed creature living in the storage room. He already thought I was crazy. If I said that, he would fire me on the spot. Or worse, he would laugh. So I stayed quiet. I got up from the floor, brushed the dust off my pants, and went back to work. Dale looked at me strangely for a moment, but didn't ask anything. He went back to the security room, and I was alone again. But something had changed. From that night in the warehouse, I wasn't alone anymore. Not really. He was always nearby. I couldn't see it, but I felt it, all the time. That constant presence, right behind me, like a shadow that won't leave me alone. Every aisle I entered, every shelf I organized, every box I opened, he was there, watching, waiting. I started hearing the footsteps more often. They weren't loud. They were discreet, subtle. The kind of sound you almost ignore until you realize it shouldn't be there. Shuffling footsteps on the concrete floor, always 3 or 4 meters away, always out of my line of sight. I turned my head. Nothing. I would stop to listen. Silence. But the second I got back to work, there were the footsteps again. And worse, things started to move. At first, they were small objects. A can of soup that I had placed on the top shelf would appear on the floor. A shopping cart that I left leaning against the wall would appear in the middle of the aisle, blocking my path. Once, I found a stack of cereal boxes piled into a tower in aisle 12, perfectly aligned, as if someone had spent hours doing it. But I was alone, always alone. Until the 4th week, when the lights started flickering. It wasn't an electrical fault, I knew that, because the lights were flickering. In sequence A's, if something were walking through the corridors and the lights were reacting to its presence. I was in the clothing section when I first saw it. Corridor 3. The light flickered. It went out for 2 seconds. Then it came back on. Corridor 4. Same thing. Corridor 5. Blink. Turn off. Turn on. Coming in my direction. I dropped everything and ran to the other side of the store. I passed the cash registers, went through the entrance, and headed to the automotive section. I stopped to catch my breath, leaning against a shelf of motor oil, and then the lights came on again, on the other side of the store, coming towards me. Corridor 18, blink. Corridor 17, blink. Corridor 16. Stop it, I whispered to myself. Stop. The lights stayed on. Corridor 15, corridor 14. Closer, faster. I ran out again. I crossed the entire store, past the refrigerated section, went up to the electronics warehouse. I locked myself inside. My breathing was rapid. Cold sweat trickled down my forehead. Silence. I stood there for 10 minutes, maybe 15, trying to calm down, trying to rationalize. It's just old wiring. It's just a coincidence. It's just... Someone knocked on the door. 3 hits. Dry, strong. Bam, bam, bam. I froze. Dale, I called, my voice trembling. Nothing. 3 more knocks. Higher this time. Come on, stop messing around, man. Silence on the other end. And then breathing. That slow, hoarse, moist breathing. On the other side of the door, inches from me. I backed up until I bumped into the shelves behind me. Video game boxes fell to the floor, making a thud. Breathing stopped. And then something scratched the door. Slowly, from top to bottom, like fingernails. No, claws, scraping against the metal. The sound was awful, high-pitched, prolonged. I covered my ears and closed my eyes, trying not to scream. When I opened my eyes again, silence. I waited another 5 minutes before I mustered the courage to leave. I opened the door slowly, peeking down the hallway. Empty. Normal lights, no sound. But on the floor, right in front of the door, brands, deep scratches in the concrete. Long, parallel, as if something had been left there, standing still, waiting, scratching. I finished my shift that night without looking back even once. I did my job on autopilot. I organized, I cleaned, I stocked, everything fast, everything mechanical. But I knew he was following me, through all the corridors, through all the shadows, always just a few steps away. And the worst part of all, I began to feel that he was no longer just observing. He was waiting for the right moment. I needed answers. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't pretend it was just tiredness or paranoia, or that the old lights were failing. Something was happening in that store, something real, and I needed to know what. It was on a Thursday, during my 3 o'clock morning break, that I decided to investigate. Dale had gone out for a smoke. He always did that. He'd leave the security room open, the computer on, and go to the parking lot for 15-20 minutes. Enough time. I entered the room. The smell of stale coffee and cigarettes permeated the walls. 3 monitors displayed the empty aisles of the store. The old computer hummed softly. I sat in his chair and started searching. The security system was old. The interface was from the 2000s, all gray and pixelated, but it had a files section, old recordings, reports, incident logs. I clicked on Internal Reports, last 5 years. The list was long: robberies, fights, accidents, normal things. But then I saw something that made me stop. Incident, night shift, missing employee, March 2023. I clicked. The report was short, almost too casual. Employee Marcus Lemoyne, 34 years old, night shift stock clerk, did not show up at the end of his shift on 03/17 at 2023. Car found in the parking lot. Personal belongings left in the locker room. No signs of struggle. Police notified. Case filed as job abandonment. I read it again and again. Job abandonment. The guy left his car, wallet, keys, and simply disappeared. I continued searching. Incident, night shift, disturbance report, January 2023. Employee Sarah Holloway reported abnormal activity during her shift. She claimed to hear footsteps and voices coming from the funds storage area. Psychological evaluation recommended. Employee requested a transfer to the day shift. Approved. Other. Incident, night shift. Accident. October 2022. Employee James Pritchard found unconscious in hallway 7, claimed to have tripped. Injuries to head and right arm. Medical treatment provided. Employee resigned a week later. My stomach churned. I kept clicking. More reports, more incidents, always on the night shift, always vague, always filed away too quickly. And then I found a different document, a scanned PDF. Old. The image quality was poor, but it was readable. Internal Memorandum, Regional Management, 2019. I started reading. In response to multiple reports from night shift employees regarding unexplained noises and unidentified presences, Regional Management has established the following guidelines. 1. No employee should access the funds deposit without direct supervision. 2. Reports of unusual activity should be recorded, but not investigated without prior authorization. 3. Security cameras in the south sector, corridors 7-12, should remain operational, but recordings should only be reviewed on demand. 4. Employees who show signs of extreme stress or emotional instability should be reassigned or dismissed. This policy aims to maintain productivity and avoid unnecessary operational disruptions. I reread that 3 times. They knew. Management knew. Supervisors knew. And they simply ignored it, filed it away, covered it up. How many people had worked here before me? How many had heard the same footsteps, seen the same shadows, felt the same presence? And Marcus, the guy who disappeared, They found his car, they found his belongings, but they never found it. I was about to close the file when I saw another document at the end of the folder. A scan of a newspaper clipping, yellowed, old. Walmart local built on former psychiatric hospital, 1987. I clicked. The article was short. It talked about the construction of Walmart in the 1980s as part of a revitalization project for the area. The land had been bought cheaply because it previously housed the Pinewood State Hospital, a psychiatric institution that operated from 1932 until 1974. The hospital was closed after a series of incidents. The article didn't go into detail, but it mentioned inhumane conditions and unexplained deaths. Part of the original structure was demolished, but the basement, where the isolation wards were located, was simply sealed off and covered. They built Walmart on top of it. I felt a chill down my spine. The storage area, that metal door, that chemical smell. It wasn't a storage facility. It was an entrance. I heard footsteps outside. Dale is coming back. I quickly closed everything and left the room before he came in. But now I knew. The store was never empty because something never went out. Something that was stuck here long before Walmart existed. And now, I was awake. I should have left that night. I should have left that secure room, grabbed my things and never returned. But something held me back. Maybe it was the fear of not being believed. Maybe it was the need to understand. Or maybe I was already too trapped in that place. I finished my shift as usual. I organized the aisles. I stocked the shelves. I cleaned the floors. But my mind kept going back to those documents, to the psychiatric hospital, to the sealed isolation wards beneath the store, for Marcus, who was never found. With 40 minutes left in my shift, I was in aisle 9, organizing packages of diapers, when I heard. It wasn't footsteps this time. It was a voice, low, hoarse, poorly formed, as if someone were trying to speak but couldn't remember how anymore. It came from corridor 7. Of course he was coming. Always aisle 7. I dropped the package on the floor and walked slowly to the entrance of the hallway. The lights flickered slightly. That weak, sickly yellow light that made everything seem dirtier than it really was. The voice continued. No words, just sounds. Drawn-out moans, like someone trying to get attention. I took a step into the hallway. Is anyone there? My voice came out steady, but my body was trembling. The voice stopped. Silence. I took a few more steps forward. Tall shelves on both sides, cleaning products perfectly aligned, strong smell of disinfectant. Everything normal, everything. I saw the movement. At the end of the corridor, where the light faded and the shadow began, something moved. It wasn't fast. It was slow, deliberate, as if he wanted me to see it. A silhouette, tall, thin, standing at the edge of darkness. My heart raced. My feet refused to move. The silhouette took a step forward, and another, and another. Entering the light, I saw the feet first, barefoot, pale skin, almost gray, dark, cracked toenails, too long, dragging on the ground. Then the legs, thin, angular, knees that bent incorrectly. The torso, so thin you could see the bones through the skin, protruding ribs. Dislocated shoulders, the arms, long, disproportionate, hanging by the sides of the body, enormous hands with fingers that seemed to have extra joints. And then, the face. God, the face. He was human, but it wasn't. The skin was stretched too tightly. No wrinkles. No expression. The eyes were sunken, yellow, no eyelids, fixed on me with an intensity that made me want to vomit. Her mouth was slightly open. Thin, cracked lips, gray, crooked teeth. And from that mouth came that breath. Slow, moist, hoarse. He stood there, 3 meters from me, just looking at me. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even breathe properly. And then he tilted his head to the side, slowly, at an angle that no human neck should be able to reach. And she smiled. It wasn't a human smile. It was something forced, mechanical, as if he had seen people smiling and was trying to imitate them. But it was all wrong. The muscles in his face contorted horribly. His teeth became more exposed. His eyes didn't blink. He took another step, and that's what made me react. I ran. I turned my back and ran faster than I'd ever run in my life. I rushed through the aisles, knocking over boxes, displays, anything in my path. I heard something fall behind me. Quick footsteps, dragging, chasing. He was coming. I ran to the front of the store. I tried to open the automatic door. It was locked. The system was deactivated until 6 in the morning. "Come on!" I yelled. "Come on! Open this damn door!" I looked back. He was standing in the middle of the central aisle, standing there, watching, that awful smile still on his face. And then he started walking again, slowly, as if he knew I had nowhere to go. I ran to the other side. I passed the cashiers, the customer service area, and tried the back door. It was locked too. I was imprisoned, trapped inside the store. With that one, I looked around, desperate. I needed to hide. I needed time to think. I saw the door to the men's bathroom. I ran over there, went in, and locked it from the inside. I leaned against the door, breathing heavily, sweat dripping down my face. Silence outside. I stood there, counting the seconds, trying to calm myself down. He can't come in here. It's locked. You're safe. And then I heard it, on the other side of the door, breathing. That same slow, hoarse, moist breathing. He was there, on the other side, waiting. I pressed my ear against the door. I could feel it, his presence, just inches away, separated only by a thin piece of wood. And then, he hit him, once, twice, 3 times, bam, bam, bam. And from that side, with that horrible, distorted voice, he whispered, "I see you." I stayed in that bathroom for an eternity, or maybe it was just minutes. I don't know anymore. Time stopped making sense. All that existed was that door, that breath on the other side, that voice saying, "I see you," repeatedly, like a scratched record. And then, silence. Breath caught in her throat. Footsteps receded, slowly, dragging, until they disappeared completely. I waited another 10 minutes before I mustered the courage to move. My leg was numb. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold my phone. I looked at the screen. 5:47 a.m. There were 13 minutes left until the end of the shift. 13 minutes until the doors open. I just needed to survive for another 13 minutes. I unlocked the door slowly. Silence on the other side. I opened it a crack. I peeked in. Empty hallway. Normal lights. No sign of him. I left the bathroom and started walking towards the entrance. Each step was calculated. Silent. I looked in every direction. Checked every shadow. Every corner. I went past the cash registers. Through the customer service area. I was almost there. And then I realized something was wrong. The corridors, they were different. I had worked in that store for months. I knew every aisle, every shelf, every product. But now, everything seemed out of place. Aisle 3, which always had children's clothes, was now full of tools. Aisle 9, drinks and snacks, was empty, bare shelves, as if I'd never had anything there. Corridor 12 seemed longer. Much longer. The lights at the end were just distant dots, as if the corridor stretched on forever. I stopped. I looked around. Nothing made sense. It was as if the store had rearranged itself, as if the space had changed when I wasn't looking. I tried to go back to the entrance. I turned left, where the automatic door should have been, but it wasn't. In that place, there was another corridor, a corridor I had never seen before. No signs, no numbers, just empty shelves stretching into the darkness. What? I turned to the other side. I tried to find my way back, but all the corridors looked the same now, identical, endless. I started walking faster, passing one corridor, then another, all the same, all empty, all too dark. I was lost inside my own store. No, 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 I murmured, my voice coming out in panic. I started running. I turned left, right, left again, looking for a way out, any way out. But all paths led back to the same corridors, like a labyrinth, as if the store were folding in on itself. And then I heard it. Steps. No, several steps, coming from various directions. I stopped in the middle of a hallway. I listened. Footsteps in front of me, behind me, to the sides. Everyone is slow. Everyone is dragging themselves along. Everyone is coming towards me. I turned around. At the end of the hallway, I saw a silhouette, tall, thin, standing still. I turned around. Another silhouette, equally motionless. I looked around. More of them, emerging from between the shelves, from the adjacent aisles, seeping out of the shadows. There weren't 3. There weren't 5. They were dozens, all the same, all with that pale skin, those yellow eyes, those awful smiles, and they were all staring at me. "Please," I whispered. "Please, let me out." They started walking, all at the same time, synchronized, as if they were one. I ran. I chose a random aisle and ran as fast as I could. I passed shelves that seemed to move on their own, lights that flashed in impossible sequences. The floor seemed to tilt, as if gravity were shifting. I turned a corner and hit something solid, a wall. Where there was once a corridor, now there was only concrete, gray, cold, damp. I turned around. They were all there, blocking the way, and slowly, all together, they began to close the circle. "No!" I yelled, punching the wall. "Let me out! Let me out!" And then, suddenly, everything changed again. The lights came back on completely. The hum of the refrigerators returned. The sound of the ventilation system. The store returned to normal. I was in aisle 4. Cleaning supplies, everything organized, everything in its place, and the silhouettes had vanished. I looked around, confused, breathing heavily. At the back of the store, I heard a door opening. "Hey!" Dale's voice called. "Are you still there? It's already 6 o'clock, man. You can go home." I stumbled to the entrance. The automatic doors were open. Sunlight streamed in. The parking lot was visible outside. I left without looking back. But even in the car, even driving far away, I knew. The store wouldn't let me leave because it didn't want to. She let me go because she knew I would come back. I spent the entire day awake. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even close my eyes. Every time I tried, I saw those faces, those smiles, those dozens of silhouettes surrounding me. I sat on the sofa, staring at the wall, trying to process what had happened. The store had changed. The physical space had been reorganized. Corridors multiplied, doubled, creating an impossible labyrinth. And those things, it wasn't just one. There were many. How many people worked there before me? How many heard the footsteps? How many saw the shadows? And how many never left? Marcus Lemoyne, the guy who disappeared. He left his car in the parking lot, the keys, his wallet, and vanished. Did he also get arrested? Did he try to escape and fail? Was he still there? I grabbed my phone. I thought about calling Dale, telling him I was sick, that I wasn't coming back, that he could shove that job up his... But I stopped. Because if I didn't come back, who would be next? They already knew something was wrong. The reports, the incidents, the transfers. But management simply hired someone else, put another employee alone on that night shift, and waited. I was waiting for it to happen again. I called Dale. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice firmer than I expected. "About what?" "Regarding what's happening at that store." Silence on the other end. "We'll talk when you get here," he said, and hung up. I arrived for my shift at 11:30. Half an hour early, Dale was in the security room, as always. But this time he wasn't on his phone. He was staring at the monitors, seriously. I entered without knocking. "We need to talk," I repeated. He sighed. He took off his glasses. He rubbed his eyes. "I know. He knows. I've worked here for 12 years, he said, his voice weary. "I've seen 7 night shift workers leave. 3 asked for transfers, 2 simply disappeared. 1 had a nervous breakdown and never came back. And you never did anything. What did you want me to do?" He stared at me. "Call the police. Say there are ghosts in the store. They'd have me committed. So you just let it happen." "I try to keep people safe," he said. "I keep an eye on the cameras. I report anything strange. But management doesn't care. They want the store to operate, period." "And what about Marcus?" Dale remained silent. "Marcus got too stubborn," he said quietly. "He wanted to investigate. He went into the warehouse alone. I warned him not to go, but he didn't listen to me." "And what happened to him?" "He never left." I felt a chill down my spine. "Did you see it? On the cameras?" "The security cameras in the warehouse don't work," Dale replied. "They never have. Not since I started working here." He stood up. He went to the metal cabinet in the corner of the room. He opened it. He took out an old folder, full of yellowed papers. "This is everything I've managed to gather over the years," he said, placing the folder on the table. Old blueprints of the store, documents from the hospital that existed before, accounts from other employees. I opened the folder. It had everything. Maps, old black and white photos, newspaper clippings. One of the photos caught my attention. It was of the psychiatric hospital, Pinewood State Hospital. The image showed a huge, gray building with small windows and iron bars. And below the photo, a handwritten caption, "Wing D, Permanent Isolation Patients, 1958. "What is Wing D?" I asked. "That's where the most serious cases were kept," Dale explained. "Violent patients, patients who would never leave. They were locked in individual rooms in the basement. No natural light, no human contact." "And what happened to them?" "When the hospital closed in '74, most of the patients were transferred. But the records show that some never were." "What do you mean they never went?" "They simply disappeared from the records, as if they had never existed." I looked at the old blueprint. There was a detailed drawing of the basement. Tiny rooms, narrow corridors, and in the center, a large room, no windows, no marked doors, written only, "Observation." "They sealed off the basement when they built Walmart," Dale continued. "They covered everything with concrete. But the back storage, it gives access, or it did. Nobody knows for sure what's down there now." I closed the folder. I looked at him. "How many do you think are still there?" Dale didn't answer, but I saw the answer in his eyes. "Many." The shift started. Dale stayed in the room. I went to work. But this time, I knew I wasn't alone. And this time, I wasn't going to run away. I walked past the shelves, through the aisles, doing my job, but with my ears open, with my eyes open. And then I heard it. They weren't footsteps. It was a choir, voices, dozens of them, whispering all at once. Words I didn't understand, languages I didn't recognize, guttural, drawn-out, broken sounds. It came from all sides. I looked around, empty. But the voices continued, getting louder, more intense. And then the lights started flickering, all at the same time, and when they lit them again, they were there, throughout the store, standing still, observing. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all with those pale faces, those yellow eyes, those smiles, and slowly, like a tide, they began to move. Everyone is heading towards me. I didn't run this time. There was nowhere to run. They were everywhere, in every aisle, behind every shelf, blocking every exit. So I did the only thing left to do. I went straight to the source, Pro Deposit. If that's where they were coming from, then that's where I had to go. Maybe there would be answers. Maybe there was a way to stop this. Or maybe I just wanted to end it all at once. I ran through the corridors. They followed me, not running, just walking, that dragging, steady, inevitable pace, as if they knew I had no escape. I arrived at the gray metal back door, the same door I had opened weeks ago, the same one that locked itself and trapped me inside. This time, I was going deeper. I grabbed the bunch of keys. My hands were trembling. I unlocked the door. It creaked open. On the other side, total darkness, that smell of mold, ammonia, and rusty metal. I looked back. They were meters away, dozens of them, getting closer. I went inside. The door slammed shut behind me with a dull thud. Silence. I turned on my phone's flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing the empty warehouse, old shelves, stacked boxes, dust covering everything, and at the bottom, a staircase. It wasn't a normal staircase. It was old, made of rusty metal, going down to the basement. I had never seen that before, or I had never noticed it. Or maybe it only appeared at night. I descended slowly. Each step creaked under my weight. The air grew colder with each step, more humid, heavier. At the bottom of the stairs, there was a hallway. It wasn't the warehouse. It wasn't Walmart. It was the hospital. The walls were covered in cracked white tiles. The floor was stained concrete. Old lamps hung from the ceiling, most of them broken. Those that still worked emitted a weak, yellowish light that flickered constantly. Rusty metal doors lined both sides of the hallway. Each had a small, frosted glass window. Each had a number painted on it in peeling paint. Ala D. I was in Ward D. I walked slowly down the hallway. My footsteps echoed. The silence was oppressive, suffocating. I stopped in front of the first door. Number 7. I looked through the peephole. Darkness, but she could feel it. Something was in there, watching back. I kept walking. Door 9, door 11, door 14, all locked, all with something on the other side. And then I saw, at the end of the corridor, a larger door. No number, just a rusty sign that read, Observation. The door was ajar. I pushed slowly. It creaked. On the other side, a huge room, circular, tile walls stained black, chains hanging from the ceiling, old stretchers scattered on the floor, rusty medical instruments, and in the center of the room, clothes, piles of them, work uniforms, jackets, shoes, wallets, watches, all thrown into a disorganized heap. Personal belongings, of employees. I approached. I took out a wallet. I opened it. The ID inside showed a familiar face. Marcus Lemoyne. I got another one. Sarah Holloway. Another one. James Pritchard. All the employees who had disappeared. All those who never left. They were here. Or at least, what's left of them. You shouldn't have come here. I'll turn around quickly. He was standing in the doorway, tall, thin, that pale face, those yellow eyes. But this time, he spoke. Clearly, almost human. "What do you want?" My voice came out weak. He tilted his head. "We don't. We want. Us we need." "Of what?" "Witnesses." He took a step inside. Others followed him. 10, 20, all the same, all surrounding me. "They locked us in here," he continued, his voice echoing strangely. "They forgot about us. They left us to die in the dark, without names, without faces, with no one to remember that we existed." "I'm sorry," I said, stepping back. "But I didn't do it. I didn't." "We know," he interrupted. "But you keep coming, working on top of us, stepping where our bodies rotted, ignoring, forgetting. So what do you want from me?" He smiled, that awful smile. "We want you, tour member." They advanced, all at the same time. I tried to run, but something grabbed me. Cold hands, long fingers, holding my arms, my legs, pulling me to the ground. I screamed. I kicked and screamed. But there were too many of them, too strong. And then, I felt it. A chill seeped into my body, not through my skin, from within, as if something were infiltrating my mind, my memories, visions, fragmented, distorted, dark rooms, chains, muffled screams, doctors in masks, injections, electric shocks, isolation, hunger, loneliness, years, decades, forgotten, abandoned, until everything went dark. I woke up in the parking lot. The sun was rising, 6:20 in the morning. I was lying on the cold ground next to my car, dirty clothes. My body ached. I stood up slowly, confused. I looked at the store, doors closed, lights off. Everything's normal. Had I fainted? Had it all been a delusion? But then I looked at my hand. I was holding something, a wallet. It wasn't mine. It was Marcus's era. I sat on the parking lot floor for, I don't know how long, looking at that wallet, at the name, at the face on the ID. Marcus Lemoyne, 34 years old. Wide smile in the photo, eyes full of life. He had worked there. He had heard the same footsteps, seen the same shadows, and one day, he didn't leave. And now, I was holding the only proof that he had existed. I should have gone to the police. I should have shown that to someone. Made a scene. Forced an investigation. But I didn't. Because I knew it wouldn't do any good. They would look at me the way they looked at the others. As just another night shift worker who'd gone crazy. Just another case of stress, of imagination. And the store would continue operating. They would hire someone else. And everything would repeat itself. So I did the only thing that seemed to make sense at the time. I went back. I went back home. I took a shower. I tried to eat something. I couldn't. My stomach was churning. My head was buzzing. I slept for 2 hours. I dreamed of those corridors, those doors, those pale faces surrounding me. I woke up sweating. My breathing was rapid. My heart was racing. I looked at the clock. 7 o'clock at night. 5 hours until my shift. I could choose not to go. I could simply disappear, move to another city, another state, start from scratch. But I knew it wouldn't do any good. Because now they knew who I was. They had gotten into my head, into my memories. I had felt it, that coldness, that invasion, and now I was part of it. I arrived for my shift at 11:30. Dale was in the security room. He gave me a strange look when I walked in. "Are you okay?" he asked. "No," I replied honestly. He sighed. "Do you want to leave?" "I don't know if I can." Dale remained silent. Then he nodded, as if he understood. "If you need me, just call." I left. I started my shift. The store was different again. Or maybe I was the one who was different. Everything seemed darker, colder, as if the temperature had dropped 10 degrees. I worked mechanically, organizing, stocking, cleaning, trying not to think, trying to ignore, but it was impossible because I could feel it. They were there, watching, waiting, and this time, I wasn't scared. I was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending everything was okay. So I stopped in the middle of aisle 7 and spoke, loudly, clearly. I know you're there. I know what you want. Silence. I won't forget. I promise. I'll tell your story. I'll let people know what happened here. Nothing. Just let me finish my shift, please. The lights flickered. Once, twice, and then they stabilized. No footsteps, no voices, no presence. It was as if they had accepted it. I finished work that night in peace, total silence. Only the hum of the coolers and the sound of my own footsteps. With 10 minutes to 6, I was near the exit, waiting, looking at the clock. 5:55, 5:56, 5:57, and then I felt it. Someone is behind me. I turned slowly. He was there, the same as always. Tall, thin, those yellow eyes. But this time, without the smile, just looking at me. I won't forget, I repeated softly. He tilted his head. And then, for the first time, I heard something different in his voice.
We know. He walked away, disappearing into the shadows. The automatic doors opened. 6 o'clock, sunlight streaming in. I left. But when I got to the car, I looked back. He was at the window, looking at me, and behind him, dozens of others, all standing still, all watching. I swallowed hard. I got in the car. I started the engine, and I drove away. But I knew. I had made a promise, and promises made to those things, they cannot be broken. Because if I forgot,
if I didn't fulfill, they would come to pick me up. It didn't matter where I was. 3 weeks have passed since that night. 3 weeks since I made the promise. Since I looked into the eyes of those things and swore I wouldn't forget. And I haven't forgotten. But I couldn't leave either. I tried. God knows I tried. The next day, I called Dale and quit my job. I said I'd found something else, that I was moving. Any excuse. He didn't seem surprised. I understand, was all he said. Good luck. I stayed away from there for 2 weeks. 2 weeks trying to get back to normal life, looking for other jobs, trying to sleep without nightmares, trying to forget those faces. But I couldn't, because every night, exactly at midnight, I would wake up. Always at the same time. Always with that feeling, the presence. I could feel them in the room, standing still, watching. They weren't visible, but they were there. I knew. And every morning, when the sun rose, I would find something out of place. An overturned chair, an open door. Objects I hadn't touched, moved from their positions, as if they were reminding me, you promised. So, in the 3rd week, I did something I never thought I would do. I went back. I arrived at the Walmart parking lot on a Tuesday night. The building was there, as always. Dim lights, empty parking lot, that heavy feeling in the air. I entered through the back door. Dale was in the security room. He looked up when he saw me. He didn't even seem surprised. I knew you were coming back, he said. Why? He gave that tired smile. Because everyone comes back, or they never truly manage to leave. I didn't argue. I just got my badge back and went to work. And since then, I've been here. Every night. Midnight to 6 in the morning. Alone. Organizing shelves. Stocking products. Cleaning aisles. And they're always nearby. I don't see them the same way anymore. Not directly. But I feel them. I always feel them. Footsteps in empty corridors. shadows shifting in the corner of the eye, low breaths emanating from places where no one should be. Sometimes, when I'm in hallway 7, I hear whispers, words I don't understand, overlapping voices, like a distant chorus. Sometimes, objects appear out of place, always the same ones, always arranged in a strange way, as if they were messages I haven't yet learned to read. And every night, before my shift ends, I go to the fun storage room. I'm not going down there anymore. I don't need to. I simply place my hand on the metal door and stand there for a moment, silent. Just a reminder, because that's what I promised, to remember them. The people who were forgotten, locked away, abandoned. And maybe, just maybe, that will be enough. I know you're listening to this and probably think I've gone crazy, that it was all a hallucination, stress, night work messing with my head, and perhaps you're right. But if you ever happen to travel along State Route 41, between two small towns that barely appear on the map, if you see an old Walmart with an empty parking lot and dim lights, if you enter after midnight, pay attention to the empty hallways, the footsteps you'll hear when no one else is there, in the shadows that move on their own. And if you make it to aisle 7, to the cleaning products, maybe you'll see what I saw. Maybe you feel what I felt. And if that happens, if you feel that chill down your spine, that presence watching you, don't run. Because if you run, they will chase you. And once they notice you, they never let you go again. I still work here, every night, alone, but never truly alone. And sometimes in the quietest hours of the morning, I wonder, did Marcus promise something too? Did he try to leave as well? Could he be somewhere down there, underground, still trying to keep his promise? I don't know, but every time I pass by the warehouse, I swear I hear it. A voice, low, distant, saying my name. And I know that one day, maybe soon, I'll go down those stairs again, and this time, I don't know if I'll be able to climb up. If you listen to the end, you're already one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next whisper.